Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello and welcome to Game Over Winnipeg. My name is Brendan Labarre, and this is the game where the Winnipeg Jets defeated the Nashville Predators 3-0. And remember, this is not only my show, but it's also your show. And let's move this a little bit because I talk my hands a lot. And this is not only my show, but it's your show. So make sure you are commenting away. Look at this. We have a wonderful chat box. Make sure that you're commenting away. We can talk about this game together. But before we get started, shift into hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with our brand new source for all the biggest stories in hockey, bringing a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max, Daphne, and Kevin every Tuesday and Wednesday for your fill in the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network channel or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon. Speaking of subscribe, please subscribe, like, comment, do all those things because it's just a cheap and fun way to help the channel. So anyway, pretty good game. It was pretty tight played for the most part. Being 3-0 game, it really felt like it was like one of those ones where it's like, okay, it's gonna kind of squeak in a little later, but that didn't quite happen. It was just kind of broke open towards the end. So let's kind of jump into the play by play here. We're gonna kind of break down the game, and one thing you're going to notice as we're breaking down the game in the first little part is I'm not going to be talking about the specific power plays. In the second period, we're going to be talking about that because when I prepare the show, I look at all these stats between the two teams. Look at this. It's amazing. That's all my stuff. And I noticed that the Winnipeg Jets have the number one power play and the Nashville Predators have the number one penalty kill. And you're going to kind of see, I kind of want to take some time in the second period to see how those two kind of compared. So that's what we're going to put our focus on in the second period. But while we're breaking the game down, kind of play by play, bit by bit, we're just going to be like skipping over that a little bit. We'll just tell you that Velarde scored two later on. Spoilers. So the game kind of started, and one thing, if you've been on Game Over Winnipeg for a little while, you'll know I don't like when the Lowry line doesn't start. And it's not because they're the best line or they have the most success. I think the Scheifele line's been probably better as of late, but they always set the tone at the beginning of every period, at the end of every period, but after a goal or after the opponent scores a goal. They should probably be out there kind of resetting the tone for the rest of the team. And if you agree, just type away in chat. Look at this. I agree. And look, you can come right up on the screen there in case you have any thoughts. And speaking of that, with the Lowry line, they come out here and Nashville has a really good first 5 minutes, but then the Lowry line comes on a newly looking at Adam Lowry line because Mason Appleton did not play in this game, and Alex Iafallo was kind of moved up to that line. And the first kind of few shifts there, they had this really nice play where they were able to just create a bunch of chaos in front of the Nashville net, and that kind of re-put things back in the Winnipeg Jets' favor. And another thing that really, one thing that led to was a really nice shift from the top line, which kind of put that first period, put Nashville on their heels. And it really turned around when just off a simple play, a simple dump in, you had Velarde and Scheifele kind of drive the corner, but then Kyle Connor looked to the side, noticed that it was probably going to be a rim. The weak side winger was already over there, so he went and challenged him, kind of started a battle, popped up the puck, and then the Scheifele, Velarde, and Kyle Connor were out there with Pionk and Logan Stanley of all people, and they were kind of whipping the puck around D to D, making plays. And one thing I really liked from Logan Stanley in particular is we're so used to seeing Logan, as soon as he gets the puck, he shoots it. It's something he's always done. He shoots it or he rims it around. He treats it kind of like a live grenade. But one thing that was really nice to see, especially on this shift and throughout the rest of the game, is he was kind of taking that extra second to see if he had that cross ice pass to his D partner. And that kind of was able to open up other things, especially in this one shift where they were able to create a bunch of shifts, a bunch of opportunities. And with that, another thing that was really apparent in the game is I always talk about how the Winnipeg Jets are a slow team. I think they made the Nashville Predators look extremely slow today. And one great example of that was off of there was a Nikolai Ehlers not power play, a Nikolai Ehlers breakaway in the first period. And the way he got that is Cole Perfetti just kind of got the puck in his own zone and he starts skating up the ice. He's gaining speed. And when Cole Perfetti is gaining speed and it's a problem for you, you have a really big problem because he's not the most fleet of foot himself. So he gets it up and then he just kind of does this chip pass into Nikolai Ehlers' stick. He has to catch it awkwardly on his forehand and then bring it up in front of him. And then he kind of gets a shot. And then Jeremy Lauzon just whacks him a bunch of times going into the corner. And off of that play, Nikolai Ehlers barks at the ref. And I think this is kind of something we talk about the Jets kind of needing to learn how to win, how to kind of work the refs a little bit. If you want to see a good example of this, the Tampa Bay Lightning love screaming at the refs. And weirdly enough, they get some more calls. But Nikolai Ehlers lets him know. So, yeah. Lucas Trapp says, Logan Stanley is so bad on the penalty kill. It's like, and on the penalty kill, our boy Logan really enjoys standing up, being tall, and then letting things go under him. He kind of reaches out like a tripod. And it's very unfortunate. That is kind of what Logan Stanley just does out there. But Scott O'Neill says he's very important to be out there. So I guess he is. I don't know what to tell you, Lucas. I agree with you, man. But going off of that, Nikolai Ehlers kind of works the refs a little bit. And you can tell from that point on, they're kind of watching Jeremy Lauzon a little more closely. And another thing I kind of want to talk about is we talked about earlier the Winnipeg Jets, that top line gaining momentum for their team. And another way that they were kind of doing that is this is the first game I think I've ever had where I'm like, Kyle Connor is just such a smart hockey player. Because I always felt like he kind of relied on his skill. His greatest skill was not having the puck, getting lost, and then firing one in. But he was so good today at analyzing plays and what needed to be done and putting in a little bit extra effort. And a huge thing was when he comes streaking in, he gets a one-timer chance, but his stick breaks. And instead of going straight to the bench, he takes a really smart route and he makes body contact with Philip Forsberg, who is not expecting it, breaks up a whole play, and then later on that shift gets another stick, comes back, kind of runs through Jonathan Marchessault, who is able to just create a chance and just really showing off some, I don't know if it's improved or just he's playing a different way or the coach hasn't playing a different way, but just some more improved hockey sense out of Kyle Connor. And then we have Jeremy Lauzon, that guy from earlier in the podcast. It's like Chetkov's Jeremy Lauzon. And he comes in, he slew foots Mark Scheifele. He doesn't understand why he's getting a penalty. And if Brendan Labarre, my father, is watching, he was upset about that. He hates slew foots. And so he comes out there, slew foots him, and the Winnipeg Jets go on the power play. And nothing really there. But because we're not talking about that till the second period. But there's one thing I want to talk about. Another thing with Kyle Connor, kind of just showing some hockey intelligence. And one thing I hate, this is my least favorite thing in all of hockey, is when there are players who, when they don't score, and if my friend Jesse's watching this, he'll know what I'm about to say. When they don't score, they like snap their head back. Like they're like, oh, how did I not score? And they stop playing the game. But Kyle Connor takes a one-timer. It goes into the corner. The Nashville defenseman gets there. And Kyle Connor makes the second effort to go and get the stick there. And because he keeps playing the sport of hockey, he gets a stick in the way, stops the icing attempt, and doesn't quite stop it, but he disrupts it. And it slows it down enough where Josh Morrissey's able to keep it in the zone. And it was just such a nice play. And then they don't score on the power play. But it was still nice. It was still a good hockey play. And then Morrissey gets called for high sticking. That's also killed. And then throughout that first period, the Jets, they looked fast. Like I said, when Cole Perfetti feels like he's one of the fastest guys on the ice, it's not a good night to be a Nashville Predator. And it felt like the rush chances were what going to kind of come out of this game. It felt like the Winnipeg Jets were going to get a rush goal at some point. And they ultimately didn't, which kind of surprised me. And then going to that second period, another thing the Jets did really well tonight is they really collapsed in front of their net. And you saw kind of a few block shots come out of that. And I think that's kind of a scouting notice on a team that has Roman Josi, where you understand where a lot of shots are going to come from the point. And what kind of stemmed from that is they're kind of holding back in. You had guys like Pionk blocked a couple. Nemestikov had a huge block today. And that also leaves the forwards in a good place to pick up rebounds. And there's a time where there was kind of a rugby scrum in front of the net, and Cole Perfetti takes up and he starts going up the ice. And then we have just the Nashville player comes up and starts whacking him, hooking him. And it's like, guys, you didn't go to the pre-scout meetings. Cole Perfetti's not going to outskate you. He looks pretty slow on the play. He's just kind of going up the ice, but he gets it out and draws a penalty. And Nashville kills that penalty with ease, and then they kill another. And then the Jets draw a high stick on Lauzon. Let's put another one on the Lauzon board. Lauzon's got 2 penalties, okay? And then DeMello scores. Kind of the next big play in the period here. And with this DeMello goal, okay, it all starts with, we're complimenting him again, Logan Stanley. Logan Stanley gets the puck at the point, gets it down to Barron, and he does this little offense thing. It's like he dipped his toe in the water of the offensive zone. He dips it in, comes back, but it was enough to like drive Stamkos toward him to be enough of a threat. And then Barron has the puck down low, finds DeMello, and DeMello rips it like he's been doing it all his life. And it was just nice to see DeMello get his first of the season. And one thing that they said on the broadcast is they were kind of in the tunnel. And they said that the Nashville Predators players were very upset that everyone seems to get their first goal against the Nashville Predators. And I think that's just kind of funny. And then the third period, the Winnipeg Jets, they start their game. They start the period on a penalty kill. I didn't even see the Logan Stanley slash, but he decided that, you know what, we're going to be whacking. And from that, the Nashville Predators built a very strong first 5 minutes. And it kind of seemed to turn around with some more of that nice Winnipeg Jet back check. And we've been talking about this all season, where it seems like the Winnipeg Jets forwards have been really instructed to, and it's not just back checking, it's very purposefully coming back through the stick and just kind of doing some nice steals. And it's super nice to see that, just that consistent stuff. And when that kind of goes away, we know it's going to be coming back later on in the season. And speaking of Vladimir Nemestikov and kind of ongoing trends, Vladimir Nemestikov blocked a one-timer from Roman Josi as the next big event in our third period. And it was just kind of a huge rip. Hits him. It almost looked like at the top of the cuff of the glove. And you could see he was really hurting, goes off right away. But if you know Vladimir Nemestikov, you know he looks like he's going to get hurt one time per game. And when he gets hurt that one time per game, you don't have to worry about it. He's always coming back. His bones are made of rubber. And it's just, as much as you want that guy to rest, maybe he has like 18 injuries going on. You might be able to see a little bit more Brad Lambert. It's nice to see just that kind of grit in the dressing room and what he's willing to put on the line to win a Monday night game in December. And then we are on the top line. The top line comes back and they come back on 5-on-5 and we need some actual momentum. They come back in, they make some beautiful plays, and guess what? We have to take off our hats because Jeremy Lauzon got the penalty hat trick because he decided that Kyle Connor was coming in for a nice move, and Jeremy Lauzon decided, you know what, you just can't be doing that. Gives them a little hook. Then they get too many men. The Jets get 2 goals on the power play. Oh, because 1 on the 5-on-3, 1 on the 5-on-4. We're talking about that in the second period. And yeah, the Jets win 3-0. No empty netter. Just kind of fizzled out for the rest of the game. Great win by your Winnipeg Jets. And before we get into the second period, let's talk about Game Over Winnipeg for 1 second. And what you can do to support the channel, it's really easy. You can like the video. You can subscribe to the channel. We're like 117, 118. Let's try to be the best. Let's try to get us, even if this is your first Game Over Winnipeg, you can unsubscribe later. It's free and easy way to support the channel. You can always change your mind. Just click that like. It's free and easy. Click that subscribe. Free and easy. And if you're like, you know what, Brendan Labarre is my favorite hockey commentator ever, which you should probably reevaluate that. Or you're like my grandma or grandpa. My grandpa watches all of these. Thanks, Grandpa Bob. Then maybe actually, yeah, just like and subscribe. Perfect way to support the channel. And if you have a little extra to give, you can support our Patreon or just join our Discord where we're always chatting the Discord. You can always come in there and chat with us throughout the game. So let's go to our second period. And there's a few things I want to talk about in the second period, but I think I've held it off long enough, and we need to be talking about the Winnipeg Jets special team. So this is a fight. This is a battle. We had the Jets' top power play against the Nashville Predators' top penalty kill unit. And throughout the game, the Winnipeg Jets looked okay, and on the power play, but there was a few things that were going wrong. They felt a little predictable, but also they were losing faceoffs. The Winnipeg Jets faceoff percentage on the season is 49.2 coming into this game, which is 20th in the league. Meanwhile, the Nashville Predators were 51.8, which is good for 9th. And usually I'm not the biggest faceoffs truly matter guy, but when it comes down to like that little, I think offensive and defensive ones definitely matter a little bit more than the neutral zone ones. Neutral zone ones are kind of useless because it really matters who has the puck after the next 5 seconds. But when it comes down, especially on the power play, you win a clean faceoff. You have Ryan O'Reilly. He's just winning back to the D. That's a clean fetch out, and that is a bunch of seconds off the clock. And then the next thing that they were doing is they were the Nashville Predators, where when the Winnipeg Jets would enter the zone, the Nashville Predators would just kind of attack the kind of back pass that they did. So the Winnipeg Jets, they really like to get down low, get it back to their defenseman, Pionk or Morrissey, whoever it is out there, and so they can start kind of making their plays in the umbrella. And the Nashville Predators knew that, and they were really trying to take it away. Another thing they tried to do is, and it was evident, they didn't quite capitalize on this, but the back passes in the neutral zone to kind of gain the zone, they were really having a forward up there to try and stop that back pass to Kyle Connor / Mark Scheifele to kind of disrupt the plays before they started. But the big thing was that back pass to the defenseman off the weak side entry. And a huge moment that I think it really clicked for them is there was a moment where Nikolai Ehlers was coming in on that third period power play off of Jeremy Lauzon's hook on Kyle Connor, the hat trick penalty. And you just saw like 3 Nashville Predators, 3 of the 4 penalty killers just collapse on him, get the puck out. And I think when they went on the 5-on-3 next going on, they made a real adjustment. They made a real point to stop using the guy on the point, and that's Josh Morrissey. And you really saw on that first 5-on-3 goal where Kyle Connor has the puck and he looks at what's going on around him and he sees that the 3 Nashville Predators, they're coming up really high, and Colton Sissons is almost blatantly cheating to the pass to Josh Morrissey. And Kyle Connor looks at that, and again, probably the smartest game I've ever seen Kyle Connor play, just in terms of hockey sense. He was so good tonight. And with that, he kind of goes down low, kind of almost opens his hips so that like he's facing everybody, gets it down low to Nikolai Ehlers, passes it up to Gabriel Vilardi, taps it in, amazing goal, kind of learning lessons on the way. And I think the coaching mid-game adjustments or adjustments game over game has been such a great part of the Winnipeg Jets series. It seems like they're picking up lessons along the way in how to counteract their opposition and the things that their oppositions are good at. And then on the next power play, the 5-on-4 goal, the second Gabriel Vilardi goal, it was almost the same thing. You know, they're so used to making that pass. Or let's start at the beginning. Mark Scheifele, he's along the boards, he's fighting in the corner, you know, doing what he does really well. Fighting for pucks, and he's fighting for it, he's digging for it, and he comes up and he passes it to Gabriel Vilardi. Gabriel Vilardi takes a second, he doesn't try to get it to Morrissey, he doesn't try to get it to Scheifele again, and he waits for Nikolai Ehlers to open up. Nikolai Ehlers is a nice one-touch pass right over to Kyle Connor, which takes a shot, hits the post, and then Gabriel Vilardi has the chance to just put it in the back of the net. Back to the lobby with you, one of my friends, Josh. Josh, you gotta text me it. I have one of your water bottles. I gotta bring that back. I have had it for a couple months now, and I need to get that back to you. I'm vocalizing it into the world right now. And Josh says, I very much like how their power play is so versatile this year. They have options all over, and most of all, they move it around more strategically. That's true. And I also feel like because they have so many different types of weapons, and I think Mark Scheifele's also embraced more of a shooting mentality this year. And I think one big difference from this year is Nikolai Ehlers, because you saw when Nikolai Ehlers was out, the power play almost got a little bit more stagnant, because if you're asking someone to kind of start the movement on it, it's not going to be Cole Perfetti. But when it comes to bring it tomorrow, yeah, I will. I'm vocalizing the water bottle thing, so it comes to the New Year's Eve thing we're going to. Uh, but with but with Nikolai Ehlers, his movement and his hockey sense just kind of opens up all these things for the other players, and it kind of gets all the other guys' feet moving. Meanwhile, with Cole Perfetti in the bumper position, it kind of felt like things were kind of stabilized, stopped, and they weren't getting much on it. And you saw with that Nikolai Ehlers touch pass to Kyle Connor, it wasn't just him. It wasn't just him standing still there. He was skating in. He was moving in the zone because there's nothing more dangerous than a moving player, and it's because it's harder to track him. It's harder to stop him. It's way easier to stop a guy standing still, and that's why different issue, but it's a little bit of a reason why Cole Perfetti has a little bit tougher time adapting to the NHL, in my sense. What else did I want to talk about in this glorious second period? I want to talk about Dylan Coghlan. He played his second game of the year tonight. I think he started off pretty rusty, but he had some really nice plays that I really liked from a player that you kind of think of him as. You kind of think of him as if he's going to be in the NHL, he's going to be your third pair right-handed puck moving D. And there's a couple of plays that I really liked out of his. Game Over Winnipeg mug, by the way. They're sick. So the first one was in the first period, there's a 2-on-1. One thing I really liked about Scott Arniel's coaching style this season is he tries to find ways to get people ice time. And you see that with Iafallo and special teams, but you see a guy like Dylan Coghlan this year or Ville Heinola, and they try to maybe sneak them on a couple of offensive zone shifts. And that's what happened here. He was on the shift, on the offensive zone shift at the top line and Josh Morrissey. And they're both at the point. And eventually, hockey happens and we go to a 2-on-1. And so it's a 2-on-1. Two Nashville Predators come in on Dylan Coghlan, and what he does is he notices that Josh Morrissey's busting his butt to come back, so he stays in perfect position to not have the pass come. Connor Hellebuck's going to stop the shot, so if it happens, so he just kind of stops, waits for Josh Morrissey to apply all the back pressure in the world, and makes Connor Hellebuck's life just so much easier. And I thought that was a really smart hockey sense play, a great gap control super hard from a guy who hasn't played since that Vegas game, which was about a month ago. And then with another play I want to talk about, it's super simple thing, but it's just a nice puck retrieval thing. There's a time in the third period where Dylan Coghlan dumps the puck, or not Dylan Coghlan, Nashville dumps the puck into the into the Jets zone. He goes back there. He's on his offside because he's playing the left side so that we can play Logan Stanley in the top four and not play Ville Heinola. Different issue. But he goes in there, gets good body position on, it was Jonathan Marchessault, and then he just keeps his back to him, peels out and makes a tape-to-tape breakout pass, and that's exactly what you want to see out of a third pairing defenseman, especially one who just keeping it simple, being able to box a guy out. Maybe not the biggest guy in the world, but definitely a guy that he should be able to take body advantage of, and he does. And with that, we covered the power play. Another thing I was going to talk about was the goalie battle tonight. What are we going to say? Connor Hellebuck he's just him. So while we get into the third period here, let's talk about how Game Over has you covered after the game. But in order to get ready to watch the Jets, you've got to get your Game On too. Game On Winnipeg is a short form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know about the Winnipeg Jets. Debuting soon, hosted by Harrison Lee. Get all your Jets news in under 10 minutes Monday through Friday on the Game Over Winnipeg YouTube channel and in podcast form, which you can find at thegameovernetwork.com/Winnipeg. And that's coming soon. That's coming soon. Hosted by Harrison Lee in the new year. Josh says, what do you think of Kupari this year? Do you think he's moving the right direction? I love Rasmus Kupari. Rasmus Kupari, you look at him, you're like, okay, he's a fourth line center. That's awesome. Because that's all you really need him to be. He's super fast. He really helps with the Jets' forecheck, and he had some really nice plays off the forecheck tonight. I think he's just a disruptor, and they like him on the power play. He's super good at faceoffs, and I think expecting him to have offensive flair, not going to happen. But at this point, I'm just super happy with what he is. I think when they take him out of the lineup, I understand you gotta get Gustafsson some games, but he's been so good this year. He gives them another right-hand faceoff option. In the playoffs upcoming, I could see him coming out just simply because if they get a second-line center for the 18th year in a row, They got to have someone come in the lineup. It's not going to be Nemestikov. He's too important to a lot of what the Jets do. And it's not going to be Adam Lowry. It's not going to be Scheifele. I don't think they're going to take Barron off. Unless it's like Alex Iafallo coming in the trade to make the salary cap work. Unless they send him to the other way to make a bigger trade work. I don't think Rasmus Kapari would be in the lineup if they trade for a second line center. But I really like what I've seen out of him this year. He doesn't score a lot of goals. His shot never hits the net, but that's not what he's here for. And he makes a lot of nice plays just kind of in the sloppy parts of the game, which I think is really nice. He uses his speed a lot too to kind of create separation for his line mates when they're in the offensive zone, just making those really nice bursts of speed plays to kind of just create disruption. And I just love him for it. So yeah, let's get into the third period. What did I want to talk about in the third period? I want to talk about Barry Trotz because in 2022, we got Josh again. With Hellebuyck coming up to 300 wins, the Golden Stick, what do you think the Jets organization could do for him? I mean, I feel like a lot of Connor Hellebuyck's 300 wins. I don't know. I feel like the Winnipeg Jets, they do a pretty good job with that type of stuff. Like when their players hit milestones, I didn't know there was a Golden Stick for 300 wins. I didn't know he was coming up on that either. But with that, like they usually have a pretty good job of knowing the player and knowing what they're kind of into. Like they should get, you know what they should get him? He's a big fishing guy. Get him something to do with that. Get him something just really nice. Give him a fishing trip so that he's rested for the playoffs. I think that would be a really nice thing for the Winnipeg Jets to get him. Anywho, third period. Let's talk about Barry Trotz. And with Barry Trotz, one thing I was going to do today is since he was in 2022, the Winnipeg Jets needed a head coach, and they wanted Barry Trotz so bad. And I think with that, you were very focused on like, okay, we need him. And he said no to Winnipeg. I don't know if he said no to Winnipeg, but I think he wanted a managerial role. And he chose being the manager there. And I think if he was going to come to Winnipeg, there was going to be some sort of thing where eventually Cheveldayoff gets just turned to the president of hockey operations, and then he's the GM. But I don't think that's going to happen because I don't think Chevy's going to take his. I don't think Chipman wants like Chevy's hands off the thing, or I don't know. I'm not in the office, guys. Like that's not what I do here. But I thought, since he said no to us, and since they're 11, 19, and 1, wouldn't it be fun if we printed off like all of his moves over the years and let's just see how Barry Trotz is doing. Okay. So in February 26, 2023, Dave Poland, Nashville said that, hey, Dave Poyle's retiring. Trotz is taking over on July 1st, and they are going to be whatchamacallit. They're going to be like bad word. They're going to be like training him, mentoring him to kind of take over the GM role so that Trotz can do it. And then, so let's go to kind of things that Barry Trotz did. Barry Trotz chose the coach. He chose Andrew Burnett. I think that's a pretty good choice after firing John Hines. Pretty shady in the way that he did it. If you want to research that, I don't know the exact story, and I don't want to have some defamation charges. So I'm not going to be kind of saying what kind of happened there. But he does things like he buys out Matt Duchene. He gets rid of Ryan Johansson for Alex Galchenyuk, which is a really sneaky, nice move to get rid of cap space. He's still paying him half the dollars, but it's still better than kind of having that player at the whole thing. And then we talk about, okay, July 1st. July 1st is a big day because it comes to his first day on the job, and it's free agency day. So what does he do? He signs Luke Shen, 3 years, $8.275 million overall. That's $275 per year for a guy who is 33 years old. And then they signed Gustav Nyquist, who's another older guy, 2 years at $6.37. They signed Ryan O'Reilly, 4 years at $18 million, and then just some depth guys. And you look at that and you're like, okay, in a vacuum, those are very nice support players. But he ended up signing 2/3 of his top line that day. And those are two guys who are pretty high there in their early 30s. And it was very obvious they weren't committing to a sort of rebuild. And then they kind of go through that year. You have him telling his guys and what people forget about last year is the Nashville Predators were pretty awful until Barry Trotz was like, "Hey guys, we can't be doing this. You guys are not." He's like, "Okay, you have this concert coming up." He's like a parent. "You guys can't go to the U2 concert. I'm sorry. No, you chose this. You can't go to the concert." They go on this huge run which really worked out for him. And then they made the playoffs and they lost in 6 to the Vancouver Canucks. And then off of that, they traded Ryan McDonagh, who's a big part of that team, seemingly so that they could sign Brady Shea. Then they also acquired Andrew Gibson. I didn't know they got him in a trade, who's playing the World Junior team right now, for Jesse Kiskinen and a second-round pick. And, Andrew Gibson looking pretty good. We'll give him some leeway there. And then he goes out and by the way, I'm not talking about like minor trades, like those, like things at the deadline for like Jason Zucker for a 6th. Those are pretty tweener, pretty routine stuff. I'm talking about like the big things that's putting his stamps on the franchise, such as Stamkos being signed 4 years, 34-year-old Steven Stamkos, by the way, 4 years, $32 million. Marchessault, another older player, 5 years at 27.5, and then Brady Shea, who's like late 20s, I'd say, but at 7 years at $7 million per year for $49 million. And then he traded away Winnipeg product, Cody Glass, went to high school with him, and a 3rd-round pick and a 6th-round pick, seemingly as a cap dump for signing all those players for Jordan Frasca. And then they trade away Askarov, and Askarov asked for a trade. And I think instead of kind of talking about, okay, well, he wanted out, it's like, okay, well, why did he want out? Like, we should talk about that a little bit. I also missed the UC Saros extension in here, 8 years. So they traded Askarov, Nolan Burke, and a 3rd-round pick for this upcoming draft for Magnus Chorna, David Edstrom, and a 2025 first-round pick. We'll kind of see how that one plays out. And then after that, there was the Baron for Alexander Carrier trade, and I think that he kind of got washed on that. And I think kind of the overall theme for his moves is he does all these things to create cap space, but then he uses like buying out Matt Duchene, getting rid of Ryan Johansson. Actually, I really like the Ryan Johansson one, but Matt Duchene, they buy him out. He signs a really cheap deal in Dallas and is playing in. You're basically paying him. It's the Moneyball quote. They're paying you $2 million to pay against them, and he's making $3 million in Dallas, having a great season this year. He'd really be helping the Preds, but instead they have dead cap space, and they're also paying what's his name, Steven Stamkos, to perform worse than Matt Duchene, which is unfortunate, and maybe that was just a shift that needs to happen. Needed to change the scenery, but that is what it is. And you can call me salty if you want, but that's fine. And what I just think when I see all these moves, it just seems like they are creating cap space to use in free agency in order to get older and slower. Like you go out and you're going out and getting just bigger defensemen, going from Carrier, a nice offensive guy, to Barron, who is a lesser proven. You're going out and signing Luke Shen. You're trading away Ryan McDonagh, an older player on a bigger deal, which is good. He was a big part of your team last year, but maybe you're just trying to get more cap space. And I think what ends up happening is you're now this player. You're now in a position where you rebuilding? Well, you have 3 first-round picks this year. You have one from the Tanner Jeannot trade. You have your own, and you have the one from the Askarov trade. And it's like, okay, that looks like a rebuilding team, but you're also signing all these veterans, but you're also not winning. And you keep saying that you want to be contending. Barry Trotz is going out there and doing all these radio hits saying he wants to be winning. It just seems like I just don't know what the Nashville Predators are, and I don't know what they want to be. And I just hope that a guy from Dauphin who's won a Stanley Cup really figures it out. And with all these things, you don't know if there's stuff from management. And if I really hope that David Poile and Trotz have enough trust in management that in Nashville that it's kind of not interfering with what he wants to do. But it just kind of stinks when a guy who is good at hockey, at the hockey stuff, he was one of the best coaches in the league as long as he was in the league, just kind of go to somewhere and kind of struggle a little bit. And maybe it's just a sense where someone who is a top 0.1% in the world at coaching might not be the top 0.1% in the world at being a general manager. And that's really what it's about, because there's only 32 of these jobs in the world and there's 7 billion people. And the fact that you were one of the best at one of them doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best at the other one. And that's kind of the Barry Trotz thing. We're kind of going a little long here, so I kind of cut out some of the kind of more minor trades, some of the other things, but I took the really big ones, put them in there, and hopefully we kind of made some meaning out of it. Anyway, so we're about to go to the we're kind of going to go to the overtime period. If you have any questions about hockey, not about hockey, if it's about Arcane, I just finished Arcane, you can type that in the chat if you want. I don't know. But yeah, you can just ask us questions here. I'm going to do an ad read while we go to the fourth period, and it's my favorite ad read to do. So yeah, just get your questions in while I read this bad boy. So look at this. Wow, it looks just like this. Whoa, a QR code. Whoa, a hoodie. This is Game Over Winnipeg's merch line. And what a better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing. Game Over Winnipeg's apparel line has dropped. With 3 unique designs in terms of the clothing, whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, or want to wear your love of goalies proudly with our live and die by the goalie design, or if you just need another coffee to get through the winter, I'm going to be taking a sip out of my water cup for dramatic effect. We have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Use the QR code on stream now to take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. All right, and yeah, while I'm waiting for any questions to come in, we'll keep that one up. I was just going to be like, oh, man, what can I talk about while I'm waiting for questions? And I was looking at Ryan O'Reilly's curve today, and I was like, man, what a weirdo. He basically uses a Drury, which is a Stallenbauer, a P91A. We got almost MLG Gaming. With Appleton being week to week, who do you think slots in that third line for the next few games? Here we go. I would honestly think that is just iFollow. I think that's a pretty easy swap to make. I think Gustafsson, they've been trying to get Gustafsson into some games because he's at worst a fourth liner. And I think Appleton kind of, or iFollow kind of changes that dynamic a bit. I think iFollow is a much more direct player, which I've been kind of wanting them to kind of implement more into their game for a few weeks now. It seems like when that line is struggling, it's because they're trying to make a couple too many passes. But yeah, I just kind of think that it might be a good thing, not that anyone's injured, but that they get a little bit more directness from iFollow. A Chibi call-up, I would love a Chibi call-up. I think he shouldn't have been sent down, especially since, he had so much success. And I think with him, even if he's on the fourth line, third line, you kind of move some stuff around. I think he has such good pro habits. You look at the way he plays, and his offense is impressive. Like the way he scores goals, his shot's pretty good. He's got to have that hockey sense to kind of get that other goal he did where he just tapped it in off that Nemestikov play. But along with that, I think he has such good pro habits. He kind of boxes guys out pretty well. If he puts on some real leg strength, I think he could be at worst a fourth liner. I think he's just got so many skills that I think this guy's got to get NHL games. And I think with that, like, we're getting to the playoffs here. We got, as good as the Jets have been, they really have not had to change their lines very much, and they really haven't had the appetite to. And you're kind of hoping that not only if things go bad, what else can we turn to? What else have we had success with? But also, like, if you're going to the playoffs with this team, who is the kind of just the same as the last year's team, minus like a couple defensemen, what is your ceiling based off that? Is it just like you need Connor Hellebuyck to throw up a 920, even though there's a lot of things more there? It was mainly like defense issues and being attacked off the rush. But what can we change? How can we improve our upside or raise our floor to kind of make sure that we get past game 5 of the playoffs? So I think it's just going to be iFollow, and they'll kind of take the extra ice time for Gustafsson. But I think I would love for Chibikov to get called up. Josh says, if the Jets get a second line center, what do you think the bottom 6 will look like? Do you think they'll take Appleton off the third line? I think I've given up on them taking Appleton off the third line a long time ago. He always seems to start really strong, right? Like last year, I remember reading a Mike McIntyre article, Winnipeg Free Press, for those of you not in Winnipeg, about him being like this offensive guy, the guy driving. And I remember they tried him on the first line when it was struggling. But I think they just really like that mix. And I think one thing about Scott Arniel is he really likes giving people roles. And there's a reason why like Logan Stanley's in the lineup and he's like, okay, you are the penalty killer. That's your job. No one ever comes into this lineup and isn't on a special team or doesn't have a thing. And I think Appleton, with him, it's like, okay, Appleton, he's not one of the top penalty killers, or is he on the power play? But it's like, okay, you're on this third line, you make it click. And I think it's one of those things where I read this book once and it was called Behind the Bench by Craig Custance, one of the best hockey book I've ever read. And he sat down with hockey coaches and he had them they watched their best games with them. So I was watching the one, or not watching, he's watching the one with Joel Quenneville where they win the Stanley Cup in 2010. And amongst the things that they were talking about is Joel Quenneville said one thing that they did is they would give each player before the next series an opponent to scout. So if it's the 2010 Chicago Blackhawks, they go against the 2010 Flyers that year. One person would be like, okay, I'm scouting Mike Richards, I'm scouting Jeff Carter, I'm scouting Claude Giroux, Michael Layton, the goalie, Chris Pronger, and one person had a job. Okay, Adam Burish was a scratched player, and Adam Burish took it upon himself. He's like, I don't have a role right now, and he did all the scouting reports. And I absolutely love how it's like, okay, and that's always like stuck in my mind as everyone needs something to do. And I think if Appleton's job is to kind of be that driver in that third, it's like, hey, you make this click, and if it keeps the team kind of going the way it does, I mean, at the end of the day, these are people too. It's not just like NHL be a pro or NHL whatever. That's the most like GM thing I've ever said. But like these are people and they have to do stuff. Oh my gosh, am I selling out? Jay Miller says Chevy has to start their renos now for a serious cup run. They have to go all in, sell the farm if needed. Yeah, I'm kind of in there. Someone said to me, yeah, would you trade Barlow, Lambert, and Iafallo for Dylan Cousins? I'm like, yeah. Like, there is no tomorrow for this Jets team. If they are the best they will ever be right now, you got to go for it. Like, prospects are for losers. If you're talking about prospects, your team's probably not very good. And I think that while keeping Lambert, I think, is the main priority because he's the closest. I think selling whatever you need to for that big piece. Don't go get a rental if that's the thing. If you can get a guy who has a couple years on the deal, so you can turn it into a this year and next year run, or a long-term second line center. A guy like Vincent Trocheck comes to mind, who helps raise the floor, helps do some things that you kind of need to do, power play, penalty kill, and really nice player. I've liked him for a long time. If trading one of those guys, like it's like Barlow in your first to get that guy, that sounds pretty good to me. Like, we need to kind of raise the floor. We got to get past game 5, right? That's the first step. We made it to game 5 against Nashville, made it to game 5 against Colorado. We got to get to game 6. Let's start that. And I think I'll start wrapping the show unless we get something else. We have another show tomorrow. The Jets play Colorado at 7 p.m. It's also New Year's Eve. So the third period is going to be New Year's resolutions for the Jets. If you have any New Year's resolutions for the Jets, please, type them in the comment section. If you're watching this a little bit later, I'll get back to them tomorrow, and we'll just talk about the Jets' New Year's resolutions. And that will probably end up being like a third period and fourth period thing. Do the ad read in the middle. I think that'd be very fun. I'm going to spend some time tomorrow kind of putting some together. Maybe we'll make a little bowl. We'll just start pulling them out. That'd be very good. Josh says, do you think Dylan Larkin would be a good fit? I heard some rumors. Dylan Larkin would be the best fit. Dylan Larkin, Nikolai Ehlers is a free agent at the end of the year. Someone needs to play that bumper role. He's elite in that part. He's a good second on the center. He shoots left. Scheifele shoots right. They like having two guys to take the faceoffs on those side of the ice. And I would really like him. He's fast. The Jets struggle with speed. He just has so many good qualities that would make him a great Winnipeg Jet. I forget what his contract looks like. I know he made 6.1 on his contract coming out of his ELC, but I'm not sure what it is right now. I think he signed a big extension, but I would love Dylan Larkin. And I think that as long as we have these Hellebuyck and Scheifele contracts, it's all about just making the most out of those prime years, especially when Scheifele's having a season like this, especially when Hellebuyck is the front runner for the Vezina. Again, it's like a broken record because he's just the best. And anyways, yeah, again, tomorrow, Jets, Colorado, 7 p.m. I'll be live at 9:45. If you want to watch it the next day while you're hungover, yeah, just comment away your your Jets New Year's resolutions. I'll read them on the show. I'll have your username attached to them if we get any at all. But I will have some 8.7 to 31 for Larkin. Oh, yeah, let's do that. That's perfect. Thanks, Fife. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I would definitely do that. But anyways, if you have any New Year's resolutions for the Jets, please write them down. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe while you're down there, because that's such an easy way to, I said comments on top of the comments because it's just the YouTube thing. It's liking and subscribing. It's just such an easy way to support the channel. It's free and easy. You can always change your mind later. And this has been Game Over Winnipeg. I'm Brendan Labarre. Thank you so much for watching.